Welcome to another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files. We're here tonight to talk about Judas Priest. This is an episode that Robin said she wanted to do, and I think she mentioned begged to do. I don't think she had to beg because this was something we needed to do anyhow. So where do we start? The metal god, Rob Halford's amazing vocals, the dual guitar attack of KK Downing and Glenn Tipton. Of course, longtime bassist Ian Hill in the band. Of course, I had many drummers over the years. Tonight, I've asked our guests to pick their favorite album with, actually their favorite 3 albums. We'll go around the bend and we'll pick out, as we go to each guest, they can give us their second and third choices, and then we'll end up with the number 1. And of course, their concert moments, if they hang out with the band or anything else, or when they saw them, or what Judas Priest means to them. Tonight's guest, John McEntee, of course, one of the regulars on the channel from the mighty Incantation. Rob and Mazen, another one of our regular hosts from Dakota and Gruesome. We got Denise here, burning the midnight oil. It's 3 a.m. where she is in Germany, and she's a trooper from Heavy Metal Home TV. We got Crazy Levy name, and first time on the show, great friend of mine, New York City Pinball Championships. The Knobs, a local band that plays in New York City. And we're going to call him Crazy Levy because he does some great infomercials for pinball because he's crazy about Judas Priest. And we got Will Carroll from Death Angel, another one of our regulars. And welcome Prika from Nervosa, one of my favorite bands. You can see I have the album to butter you up all night.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about Judas Priest. So we're going to start off with, I'll give a little monologue on it first. My first time seeing Judas Priest was on the Point of Entry tour with the Joe Perry Project, of all people, opening up and having some band called Iron Maiden. It was July 26, 1981 at the Allentown Fairgrounds in Allentown, PA. Some other memorable times for me seeing them, but they were here in Middletown a couple times at the Orange County Fair Speedway. They were here on the Ram It Down tour with Cinderella opening up. The funny thing about it, we were huge King Diamond fans, and King Diamond was on that tour, but they split the tour for the openers the night before they played. That was the first night of Cinderella. So anything would have changed. We could have got King Diamond here. They also played here on the Operation Rock and Roll tour, where I got to meet a few of them, and that was part of that package of Judas Priest, Alice Cooper, Motorhead, Dangerous Toys, and Metal Church. And that was another very memorable show for me. I've got a couple more to talk about. I got to see him on the Painkiller tour, and I don't know, Robin might have been on this tour because it was Megadeth and Testament. And I saw that on January 14th of 91 in Albany, New York, at the Knickerbocker Arena, which is now, I believe, the Pepsi Arena. And then, of course, I saw them several times in 2004 in Ozfest when Judas Priest reunited with Halford. And that lineup was stacked that year. It was original Black Sabbath, it was Judas Priest, it was Slayer, it was Dimmu Borgir, Superjoint Ritual, and Black Label Society on the main stage. I got to see it about 3 times. I saw it at Jones Beach. I saw it at PNC Art Center in Holmdel, and I saw it in Camden. And Camden is where I got to see Rob Halford front Black Sabbath that night because Ozzy Osbourne had got sick. And
I would love that.
And I had a friend of mine that was working security with one of the bands, and he came up to me and goes, "Steve, you better leave." I'm like, "What do you mean I gotta leave? Slayer's coming on or something." He goes, "There's going to be a riot because we just found out that Ozzy's too sick to perform tonight. He couldn't do it." And
hey, Steve, was everybody as excited to see Rob fronting Sabbath as you were?
Yeah, literally, I had a VIP ticket, and I was right down front, and like everyone came. Hey, Chris Caffery, welcome to the show. And I got that VIP ticket, and I was down front in the pit, in the GA pit, and like when they came on, like every member of like every band that was on that tour, because I remember like the dude from Randy from Lamb of God standing next to me, and everybody was down there because it was like a special event, And I also part of that tour was a totally different thing, but Phil Ansamo was with Superjoint Ritual on that tour, and at the Jones Beach amphitheater, they were warming up, and Phil was on his rants and everything else, and when he actually started, like a song played, he started to talk again. The crowd chanted, "Shut the fuck up," like a wrestling chant. I could not believe it, And like you get to see, like he was like, we're the baddest band in the world and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm way off topic, but that was part of that memory of that Judas Priest tour. Like seeing Calford and then like the whole thing with Phil Anselmo. And I couldn't believe they were chanting that because I'm a pro wrestling guy. And I'm like, really? Are they chanting this? And then I got to see the latest was the Firepower tour with Saxon at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. And my final time seeing them so far, and let's hope I can get to see them again, was warming up Deep Purple at the Bethel Woods, the original Woodstock site. And Crazy Levy and I were in the front row, and I'm sure Chris Caffery was up there too. So, Chris, do you have
at Prudential? We saw Glenn came out, right? At Prudential, I think Glenn came out that night.
He did, I think, yeah, because that's when Glenn, of course, Glenn, suffering from his illness, wasn't able to perform, but was coming around and doing some of the shows. I guess we can start with, Chris, do you have a little bit of time? Can you hang out, or do you need to go first right now?
No, well, I can hang out. I got time.
All right, cool. So
I only recorded till 5:30 in the morning last night, so I'll try to get out of there by 4 tonight. But
okay, cool. Well, we'll keep you up.
I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's so weird. My time schedule is so messed up. My dog will wake me up at like 6:37, so I'll wind up getting a couple hours of sleep. Then I can't fall back to sleep. But I'll make it work. Whatever we got.
All right. So I'm going to start out with one of our newcomers to the panel tonight. Prika from Nervosa, and how would you like to tell us your Judas Priest moment, or maybe your number 3 and number 2 albums, if you pick them out for us?
It's very hard to choose just 3 albums because it's the second favorite band for me, and it's very hard. And I'm still in doubt, but I think I would say Rock'n'Rolla and Sin After Sin and Painkiller or Remedy Down. I don't know. I'm a huge fan of 70s songs. And of course, the 2 first will be my favorite.
Okay. So what is your
Tell us more about Rock'n'Rolla. I don't think anybody expected anybody to say that.
So what would that? So
it has good moments, I think.
Rock'n'Rolla is your number 3?
Maybe number 2, the Sin After Sin, the first one. Number 2, Rock'n'Rolla, because I'm a huge fan of 70s, songs, and for me it's very special. Doesn't mean that it's the best, but it's my favorite, because the best for me is Painkiller and Ready Down, but my favorite Sin After Sin and Rock'n'Rolla because brings me the 70s that I love,
Excellent. Cool. So I guess we'll move on to Denise, who's here for burning the midnight oil at 3 a.m. in Germany, and welcome to the show, Denise.
Yeah.
Not that late. No. You got 2 hours left now.
It's a pleasure. Judas Priest is one of the bands that helped me to find heavy metal. It was a band I went out to first, I fell in love to first, I broke up to first. It's very important for me. And I won't say anything surprising here. My 3rd place album will be Screaming for Vengeance. My 2nd place would be British Steel, because the hits on those albums are the ones they played when I was young in the clubs. And
Excellent. Anything else you'd like to add before I move on to our next guest?
No.
Okay. So we can all pretend that Levy is Rob Halford if we want to ask some questions. No.
I got a bat ring on the side here. You can't see.
Wait, let me take off my glasses so maybe I can believe it. Oh, okay.
So here we go. We're here with Crazy Levy, and Crazy. I want you to do the Crazy Levy stick a little bit.
What's that?
Let's do the Crazy Levy gimmick. Let's do it.
Come to Crazy Levy's Pinball. My prices are insane. Do you want a pinball machine, John McEntee? Do you want a pinball machine, Robin? Then come to crazylevypinball.com and find the best in pinball action. Thank you.
But are you crazy about Judas Priest?
That brings back those memories of the Crazy Eddie thing for sure.
Crazy Eddie.
Yeah, I was a kid, you know, coming to New York, visiting my grandma, and I used to see those ads. They made a real impression.
Yeah.
The part where Crazy Eddie took off to Israel with all the money also is a gift.
You couldn't have that nowadays because Crazy Eddie would be offensive to psychopaths, so you wouldn't
Yeah,
be.
exactly. The psycho lobby.
You wouldn't be allowed to be on TV, be offending a psychopath somewhere. So.
So I'm up.
You're up, number 3. What's your number
Right,
3?
you know, like Prika was saying, like everybody's gonna say it's tough picking a top 3 because they've got, you know, probably over a dozen awesome albums. I'm gonna go with number 3 is gonna be Painkiller. It's just a sick album. The start, Painkiller, of course. Hell Patrol, one of my favorites. Nightcrawler, All Guns Blazing. It just, you know, it just really cemented. I mean, they're legends already, right? But it just cemented their legacy with that classic. Kind of being quiet for a few years and just showing everybody how it's done. And it doesn't seem forced. You know, the first time I heard about it, you know, I didn't really get into Priest till 20 years ago. You know, I was like, oh, it's going to be like they were jumping on the bandwagon. You know, it's something completely its own, and it's awesome in every way. But it does kind of run out of gas a little bit towards the end, so it's not in my top 2. Number 2, I'm going to say is British Steel. You know, people think like it's a pop album with those hits on it, but I mean, like, you know, Rapid Fire into Metal God, that could be some of the 2 best metal songs stacked back. There it is. Yes.
Yes.
This isn't actually a British Steel shirt. It's a Duff's Brooklyn bar shirt.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Duff's, of course.
When we went to that British Steel tour like 10 years ago, we all jumped on a Duff bus and they were handing these t-shirts out. So that was fun at PNC. But I love that album. I love Rapid Fire. I love Metal Gods.
Metal Gods is a classic, especially how Rob does that little strut on stage. You know, you come out and he's got the whole like back and forth, you know.
And now he's kind of older and stiff, so he really does, you know, work like a robot.
Yeah.
Grinder, you know, even United, like when I just think about it, I think it's kind of cheesy, but like I was listening to it to warm up. Yeah, it's awesome. And my favorite Priest album is probably Stay in Class.
You're not supposed to tell us number 1 yet. You're only supposed to do 3 and 2, but
number 1 is probably going to be.
You gotta remember, he's insane.
There's no such thing as order. I'm here.
All right, well, we can discuss that later. But my top 2 would be Painkiller and British.
Awesome.
We'll fix that in editing. Don't worry.
He never fixes anything. It's 2.5 hours.
This is uncut. And I guess next on the screen is the amazing drummer from Death Angel, Will Carroll. Welcome.
So I'm just doing number 3 and number 2 for now.
Yeah, right now. And if you got any stories you want to tell about, you know, anything.
Well,
you know how this story, you know how we work.
Judas Priest more times than I could mention, so I won't go show to show. But my the most special time I saw him was the first time on the Ram It Down tour at the Cow Palace, and Slayer were opening, and that was for South of Heaven. Wow. And you know, I loved Ram It Down, but it was no South of Heaven, you know. So I was a little worried that Slayer were gonna blow Judas Priest away, you know. And me and my friends were all like, "Wow, man!" And that wasn't the case at all. I mean, Slayer were phenomenal, but Priest just stole the show. They proved that they're the kings of metal. It was really, really great to see, and you know, your heroes are up there, and they didn't let you down. You know, it was fucking awesome. So that's my most special Judas Priest show. Number 3 is going to be Sad Wings of Destiny. I figured a lot of people would pick that album in their top 3, but yeah, that's a huge leap forward from rock and roll. A huge leap forward. And they're starting to sound like a metal band on that album. And just like I love Dreamer Deceiver, the last 2 songs on side 1, I guess. But
the vocal performance on that is amazing too.
What's that?
The vocal performance is out of control on that album.
Totally. And if you watch that Dreamer Deceiver documentary, that's really the song that drove those kids to blow their brains out. It wasn't Better By You, Better Than Me. The one surviving kid is talking about Dream Deceiver, that song in particular. He's even humming it, and I know how he feels, man. Not that I wanted to kill myself, but it's some powerful stuff, man. But so number 2 would be or is Defenders of the Faith. That's like fucking the most heavy metal album of all time. And those are my number
I don't
two.
have a prop for that. How could I not have that album here?
It's a great record.
I have some props. but I'm saving
Hoser.
for the end.
Same for the end. Awesome, awesome. Robin Mazen. I didn't make
Okay.
you go first. You like this now. I know to put you towards the end of the list.
Yes, thank you. So, for me, yeah, it was really difficult to choose, where do you go with Judas Priest? So I'm going to start like with stuff. I mean, I had to make a bunch of notes because I was like very excited for this. Like I kind of lost interest, really, not, I wouldn't say interest, but they kind of weighed like after Painkiller, and then I got back into it with the most recent album, which I was very upset because my mom actually went to Biloxi and saw that Judas Priest concert with Uriah Heep. She was taking photos. My mom, I don't want to say how old she is because she might watch this and be mad at me, but she's in her later years, but I was so upset that she went and got to see that concert. I missed it because I was on tour, I think with Will.
Probably.
Because it was like, I want to say it was, summertime. But yeah, so, and I mean, I've seen Judas Priest a bunch of times. I saw him at Ozfest as well. I saw him at Turbo Tour, saw him in Europe. I saw him at Texas, like I think it was South by Southwest or Austin Fun Fest or something.
Okay.
I was at that show. I
Yeah.
was at the Fun Fest. Wow.
And the one time, one of the worst shows, it was really weird. I saw them in Vegas with Ripper singing.
Okay.
And it was like, I had a day off on tour and I was like, oh, Judas Priest, let me go to the show. And I went and there was probably 50, maybe 100 people there total.
Wow.
It was really kind of, I mean, I enjoyed the show because I was like, wow, I'm still seeing, Judas Priest.
Yeah.
But it was very,
Mundane.
weird.
Were you not
Very
feeling the Ripper? I never saw one of those shows.
I mean, I
There
never saw
was
Ripper.
not
sing
many
at the
people
theater,
did going by the crowd in Vegas.
but if only 100 people were in a pretty decent sized hub, that's pretty bad. Yeah.
It was really, yeah, it was kind of, but as far as records go, it was really hard to choose, my top. So I picked a tie for British Steel and Point of Entry.
Okay.
For my third choice. I couldn't decide because I mean,
Two very different albums.
but like
Yeah.
all the songs, like I mean, I can't pick between like Grinder and then hits like Living After Midnight and and then Don't Go and
Yeah,
Desert
it's easy.
Plains.
Grinder crushes
That's
though.
tight.
I'm just saying between
That's
all
true.
of those, I can't pick like
Thanks, Will.
Point of
those
entry is
two-
low on the list.
Those two records, but I
I do have a
couldn't
soft
pick-
spot for Desert Plains. That's a cool song.
Desert
Yeah, and my
Plains is
number
amazing.
2 is Defenders of the Faith. I mean, every song on there, and I have to say, I brought a prop. This is my old satin jacket.
Nice.
Awesome.
And it
Nice.
still fits.
Every day when I was like 13, 14 years old and sweated in it, and I never washed it.
Until
It
now.
doesn't smell though. So, but
Smells
yeah,
like
I'll
Kronos.
look it up. It's got like, but I wore this. I just tried it on too, and it still kind of fits. So either I was really big at 13, 14, or I just haven't changed body size too much. But
You
so
bought that
am
at the
I?
show, Robin?
Sorry.
You bought that at the show?
No, I don't even. I've had it for so long.
We don't know
Maybe
where.
probably got it at Spencer's.
No, Spencer's. No.
Oh,
Old school Spencer's used to have good stuff.
maybe she got it at one of those heavy metal flea markets, man.
Something like that. But
Those
yeah, it's
record
my old
shops.
satin jacket. I love this thing too. Like, so that's my, so yeah, those are my top, and then I'll.
The
Ooh,
weird song
yeah,
on
I'll
this
come back to
album,
number one.
I thought like You Say Yes is a weird song. I'm looking at this as you mentioned this album. And I mean, I when I saw Judas Priest on that tour, which I was talking about with Maiden, and I was like, I didn't stop. That was like, Priest was one of those bands. If you saw them live, you just wanted to listen to their stuff when you left, like especially back in the 80s.
Well, they opened on that Point of Entry tour. They opened with Solar Angels, and that was a really cool opening tune. They had
Okay.
when they had Maiden open, they opened with Solar Angels, and it was just one of these things where Priest, they never put their best song first, but they always had a cool opening song. They always went out of their way to have something really cool, you know, just in case somebody was still in the bathroom or something. When they started their set, they didn't want you to miss the first, you know, liking one of their songs too much. But that was one of the coolest opening. I think they rose up from behind the risers. They had those lighted yellow and red.
You've got a better memory than I do, but now you're bringing it back a little bit, boy.
Well, I saw that tour, like, believe it or not, like 4 times. Priest and me. Yeah, that Point of Entry tour. So
cool.
I
actually wound up. I was 13 years old, but I knew Priest, and they were getting me tickets and backstage passes. But I'll tell the story.
That's right. That's a story that I want you to tell. Let's go to John and wrap it and get his, and then we'll go back to Chris, and then we'll flop it back, and I'll give my last 2, and we'll bring it back to whoever went first. I forget now already. Prika, I think.
Yeah, Prika. Yeah, well, I want to disagree with Robin. I actually thought the Jugulator album rocked. I love that album. I think it was when it first came out, I was just like, that is a heavy album.
I like Burning Hell's one of my
she didn't say the album sucks. She just said the show was a little poorly.
Yeah. I guess so.
Thank you for defending my honor.
I thought it was a killer album. And when I heard it, it was really a heavy album. And I mean, his vocals are stellar on that. And I've seen him play with Ripper, and the show I went to, they were playing with Iced Earth on tour, and you know, the place, I mean, it wasn't a huge place, but it was maybe I forget what it was, in Pittsburgh. It was probably I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 person place, and it was packed to the hilts, and it was I thought it was a great show. I mean, it sounded stellar. The vocals probably sounded better, you know, than a lot of Rob Halford shows, just because of age, or, you know, he's able to hit some of those higher notes. I mean, he doesn't have the personality of Rob Halford.
He's got the screech and the high pitch, but from what I've seen, he doesn't have the power.
Yeah, man. I did 6 weeks opening for Priest with Ripper, 5 nights a week, an hour 45-minute set. His voice is a freaking machine, man. That dude was able to sing those hour and 45-minute sets 6 nights a week and never missed one note. His voice is a lot better than you realize.
Yeah, I think
I realize a lot of people do, but Ripper is an amazing singer. He just got channeled into being Rob Halford, you know, so that's a difficult thing. That's like, oh, now all of a sudden you're going to pretend you're Michael Jordan, you know. It's like, it's a difficult thing to do, but his job that he had was real difficult, and I know from being there 6 weeks, we opened Savatage, opened for Priest in Europe, and there was not one bad song out of Ripper, and their set was an hour and 45 minutes long, and he did not miss a note in those 6 weeks.
Yeah, when I seen him live, I thought it was a top-notch show. I mean, it was nice to see him at a small club. I mean, obviously, it probably wasn't nice for them to play a small club, but for me to watch Judas Priest in a small venue was amazing. Yeah. And I mean, it sounded like KK and Glenn Tipton were just on the money with the guitar playing. That just sounded heavy. I mean, that guitar tone was monstrous. I mean, it's not one of my top 3 albums, but it's definitely a great album. I mean,
well, you know, once the touring starts again, I think, isn't Ripper fronting that KK Les Binks project?
Yeah, they're putting out a record that KK.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about that.
I might go see that if they hit a club around here.
Oh, I would see that in a heartbeat.
They were supposed to tour last year on Judas Priest's 50th anniversary is going to happen probably in the 52nd year. So everybody's going to be out then. I mean, I know that you know, KK really wanted to be involved with that, and he got a hold of Ripper to do that thing, and it was actually one of the reasons why he turned down doing the next Spirits of Fire record. And then when COVID hit, nobody was touring and nobody was working, I bet you he wouldn't have minded working on that record while nothing was going on, but we're doing it without him. But I know that from what I've heard, the record's supposed to be really good. I mean, I'm not expecting anything bad to come out of Les Binks, Ripper, and KK. I don't.
I mean, nobody's seen Les Binks in like 40 years. Can I still play drums?
That's amazing.
There was a live show they did at KK's place in England, and that seemed pretty cool, man. They were all, his band was good. The band he had playing, it was really good. So
I've seen some videos on Spinks playing like in the past like 5 years, and he still can do double bass and still rocks it, man. Still does a really good job.
Cool.
I mean, I'd go see Al Atkins at this point. You know, I'm ready.
We'd go see.
I have that album. That's good.
Oh, Al's album?
Yeah.
Nice.
It just being a Judas Priest fan, you have to. I don't know, for me.
Yeah.
But what's it? Yeah, as far as my third and second album, it's a really tough call for me between Hellbent for Leather and Stained Class. I mean, fuck, those are both so good. I mean, I love Exciter, such a good way to start an album off. I mean, that is a killer song. I mean, that whole album is just amazing. But I mean, Hellbent for Leather is great too. It's so good. So it's so hard to really choose between the two. Yeah.
Hellbent for Leather does not have Saints in Hell on it, though.
Yeah, I know that's. But yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'll go with Stained Class, but it's really both albums are almost the same. I love those. I love that era of Priest. I think it's great. And probably my number two. I'd have to say, I don't know now. Okay. My number two is Sad Wings of Destiny. It's just, it's such a good album. Like I said before, the vocal performance on an album is just stunning. The guitar work is great. I mean, I know it's not fully developed into the heavy metal sound, but I mean, it's just, it's amazing. I mean, you listen to Rob Halford sing on that. It's just like, holy hell. It's so high he's getting on his vocals and just so amazing. And the notes he's holding at I mean, you could just tell when he did that album, he was just like, he wanted to make a statement like, I am the shit. And that album, he is the shit. I mean, that at that time, you know, I mean, I don't know everything about, you know, that year in the 70s, probably what, 75 or 70, whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think there was many vocalists doing that on an album in 75, I would think.
Maybe the only guy that you could think of maybe with the early Queen stuff with Mercury a little bit. That's about it.
Or Ian Gillan a little bit, but he doesn't do that much tight. I mean, not that much high. I mean, this was like another freaking.
That album sounds good too.
I think so too. I think it's a great one.
It's got nice production, drums sound good, guitars, vocals.
Yeah, I love it.
I guess I'll give you if you're done, John, I'm going to give you my number 3 and 2, and we'll move over to Mr. Caffery. My number 3 is 1984's Defender of the Faith. How do you go wrong with the opening track, Free Will Burning? And one of my favorite Judas Priest songs ever is The Sentinel.
Yeah, that's a great song.
The Sentinel, and of course, Jawbreaker is on that, and there's some other great songs. And my number 2 is Killing Machine, or also known as Hellbent for Leather, opening up, you know, delivering the goods. Of course, the Hellbent for Leather song, the cover of the Green Man Alishi, Running Wild. And that would be my number 3 and my number 2. And I guess we'll just pop over to Mr. Caffery, who's got a history with Ripper and a history with Priest. And you can give us your number 3 and 2, and which unless I already picked them for you. And
yeah, you're pretty close. Actually, you know what? You would be if I was to pick. It's hard because I'd have to say, you know, if I did a 2 and a 3, I would say everything before Unleashed in the East is a 2, and everything after Unleashed in the East is a 3, and then Unleashed in the East would be my 1. You know, it's like that's kind of.
Is that cheating? Is the live album cheating?
Yeah, we're not allowed to do
live.
live.
You know what? Here's
that's not really live though, right?
It's not really that
live, except for Rob.
I gotta tell you something. I had no idea who Judas Priest was. I was 11 years old. I was going to see Kiss at Nassau Coliseum, and I got there and I heard that this band Judas Priest was opening up, and it came out. And I remember the riff from Victim of Changes, and I remember the Flying V and KK Downing, and that's probably one of the most influential things of the way I became as a guitar player on stage, off stage. I mean, there was something about that band that I loved. I mean, I was there to see Kiss, obviously, but Judas Priest blew me away. I had no idea. And here I am, 11 years old. So the next day I go to the mall and I buy Unleashed in the East, which was the record they were touring on that tour. British Steel wasn't out yet. So for me, that's always got to be my number 1 regardless. And there's just something, that record that's a punch in the face from start to stop, that album.
I'm agreeing with
Heartbreaker on
you.
that?
Unleashed in the East is just so, it's like a lot of my favorite Priest songs on one record. Obviously, none of the old stuff was even written yet, but when there was something always about Priest, they were funny because they were always ahead of themselves. So they would always have, like, Exciter was there, the birth of thrash metal, but then they never kept doing it. And then they had, like, Living After Midnight and the more kind of poppy heavy metal, which nobody did, and everybody was like, oh my God, this is so mellow. And then they stopped doing it, but then everybody else did it, and 80s metal became huge. Priest was always a step ahead. Then they went back to Painkiller, then all of a sudden everybody was Pantera again. It's like Priest was always a step ahead of everybody in what they were doing, but those records I love. But when I was 12, Priest was releasing British Steel, and I went to Harmony Hut Records in the mall in New Jersey, and they had a contest to win backstage passes. And I remember getting the phone call on my house phone, because back then you didn't have the cell, so you actually answered the phone, and it was somebody from Columbia Records telling me that I won the contest. And it's funny, being 12, they said, and you won the Judas Priest catalog. I thought I was getting some book. I had no idea I was getting every record. So I got every Priest record in vinyl, and I got to go to the Palladium in New York City. And my parents drove me and my brother. I was 12 years old, and I went to see Priest and on the British Steel tour. And I was by far the youngest person in that crowd. And I had a British Steel shirt on that I bought from a record store, and they wanted to know where I got it. They thought it was bootleg, so they were trying to send people to look for it.
But backstage, they were hassling you about the shirt?
When I met KK Downing, he asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up, and I said, I want to be you. I want to be like you. And they were laughing about that. But in the following year, like the next year, Priest was with Maiden, and they just gave me their contact at their management, and I went to see them twice at the Palladium, and I saw them in Asbury Park on that tour, and I saw them in Philly. I think it was 4 times on that tour, and then I got to see them when they headlined the Garden with Maiden. And that was the other thing too, like you said before about Slayer opening for Priest. Maiden was one of the most brutal live bands ever, and they opened for Priest on the number, was it the tour that I think it was the Number of the Beast tour. They opened for Priest at the Garden. The first time they had Bruce, and Maiden was so unreal at that show, and Priest came out and they stood on them, and they went over better than them. So it was something that was always great about Priest. Like you said, it was their live show, but then Savatage got the chance to do 6 weeks in Europe with Ripper singing, and I'd met Ripper before that, and I became friends with him, and it was just really cool to be out on that tour. And the Priest guys remember me, and we talked about it, about that whole discussion about, that's what I wanted to do. And it was just really cool for me to be out there for 6 weeks, going on stage right before KK Downing on the same side of the stage as KK Downing. That was my stage side. He always used to look at my rig, and because they love my live sound, and they always asked me what I did. And I was like, I'm doing what you guys used to do. I was going straight to Marshalls, and they were using weird digital things, and they weren't loving their sound. But one of the funniest KK Downing quotes I ever heard in my life, we were somewhere in England, and he was waiting to get on stage, and I was always on stage with them and watching on his side. And he looks out there, and the place was not full. Some of the shows on that tour were sold out, some of them weren't. But he looked out at the crowd and he goes, there has to be an easier way for me to lose money. And so it was just pretty classic. But I mean, that was the whole thing. People
that must have been before his divorce.
Yeah, people wanted to see Priest with Halford, and I think Ripper always knew that, and everybody wanted that to happen again. And Ripper filled a gap. I think it was a heck of a lot better than a lot of other singers that went in and did temporary replacements. I mean, it was really tough for Blaze Bayley when he got into Maiden to overtake Bruce, because it was such a difference in voice. But Ripper at least was able, I thought, to carry that over live. But yeah, no, the Priest guys, they're always real. Even KK told me he wanted me to replace him when he retired. So I could have walked a little bit harder on that and probably wound up taking his gig over before even Richie did. But I love what Richie's doing in Priest. I think he's kind of a rebirth for Priest with that now, because he just I think he brings an energy into that band. Nothing against KK. I think that Richie, with Glenn getting a little bit, when he started to get sicker and stuff like that. I think that Richie just took over a big void, and the fans really like him. So
And I mean, and look at the album they put out
Great
a
album.
few years ago.
great.
This
And,
album,
Richie's
I mean,
he's an amazing guitarist and a great writer, and I think that's helping Priest a lot too, because Richie's heart and soul's in that metal, and he writes
Yeah.
those songs the same as anybody ever has. So that's something about that. But it was really cool to be on that tour, and I got to play another thing coming with them on stage. The only bad memory I ever had wasn't necessarily bad, because I liked every moment. We were playing a bullfighting arena in Spain, and I got food poisoning from some seafood there, and I almost died from it. And we left the Priest tour. We were finished with it, and we had a couple shows. We had a show to do in Paris, and then we had a festival to do in Holland before we were going home after 6 weeks. And I went into the hospital before the show in Holland because my intestines were like, I was internally bleeding so bad that soda cans of blood were coming out of me. And they put me on IV, and they said I wasn't going to get out of the hospital for 5 days, but I snuck out the next day and pulled the IV needle out of my arm. I have photos with the IV needle in my arm, and I went and played this because we were getting paid a lot. Savatage was headlining the festival over Megadeth, and we needed the money to pay a lot of bills we had because we were opener for Priest, so we weren't making a ton of money as an opener. So we needed to pay a lot of bills, and this festival in Holland was like a $50,000-$60,000 payday, and if we didn't play it, so I just pulled the needle out of my arm and I went and played. But yeah, no, they're great guys and a great band, and it kind of makes me sad to see Glenn the way he is, but I know that his soul is right there with that band when they play without him. And that show at Bethel Woods, they were great. They were.
So
they're sitting on a new album, right?
Yeah, that was last 2 years ago in September, I think it was. But I got out of the hospital for something else, but I've been in the hospital too much.
Yeah, you were there for that. I remember. You were hanging out with Butch Jones at that show, weren't you?
I think I went with my brother, but I did see.
Oh, for your brother, it was a different show. You were with Butch. I remember some show where you and Butch were sitting on. But yeah, that's a great story. I mean, how you were this little kid that won tickets, and then years later, you're the guy opening up for him. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, no, it was pretty cool. And they always, like I said, they were really, really nice to me. They would get me into all the shows, and they treated me really well. And I got to meet Maiden, because I saw Maiden with Diano, and then I became friends with Adrian Smith at that time, and Maiden was getting me. So when the first time Maiden ever played the Garden, I was hanging out with them, and I was like 15, 16 years old. So it was pretty cool. But they were one of my hugest influences in KK with that flying V and the blonde hair. That was kind of my thing between him and Schenker. It was it was a close tie between those two. I actually got a call from UFO after the Gutter Ballet tour. They called the management, and Pete Way called me up asking me if I would play in UFO, because when they saw Savatage play on that tour, they thought I was the ghost of a young Michael Schenker. So they wanted me to replace whoever was playing in the band at that tour, or even if it was Schenker himself. They wanted me to play in UFO, but I was busy doing some other things, which was kind of probably pretty stupid on my part. But
sure happens, man. Well, great stories, Chris. We'll get back to you in a little bit. Prika, Amara, back to your spot here. And if you haven't listened to this new album, the viewers, please go out and buy this record, Perpetual Chaos. It's one of my favorite records from this year, and she already knows that I'm a fanboy, so I was so happy to talk to her last week. We did an interview with her, and there they are. Great lineup, and so glad you can be part of the show tonight.
Thank you to invite me. I'm super happy to talk about it, one of my favorite bands ever. And I love here to just hearing all the histories and everything. I'm really happy.
Cool. So what, do you have any moments of you seeing Judas Priest over the years, and other than giving you your number one album on the list tonight? Or did you already do that? I don't know. You'll have to do it
again. So I didn't have too much opportunity to see them live, because in Brazil they didn't came too much, just just sometimes. And the times that they came in, the ticket prices are huge, and I live it in another city, so it's very hard for me. It was very
Okay.
hard. But I had the chance to see them live for the first time, and it was the best show that I saw in my life, and it was in Mexico in 2017 or 18, I think 18, yeah, 2018, right after they released the Firepower. And
Okay.
I was super impressed because Robbie Halford was singing, better than the album. And it was, oh my God, I couldn't believe, I was shocked this way, and it was super happy and super screaming all the time, like a huge fan,
Nice.
And I saw them again in Europe. I don't remember where exactly, but it was the same. It was very close.
Okay. Were you doing a festival with them in Europe?
I don't remember which was. I think it was Barcelona. No,
okay.
I don't remember. My memory is sucks.
You're too
Yeah.
young to have
Join
a
the
bad
club.
memory.
Yeah, we are playing many festivals in every
Yeah.
day, so it's hard to remember sometimes. Even if we are drinking too much beer, of course.
I also wanted to make a mention tonight that we haven't mentioned. I wanted to start the show that I wanted to say, have a moment of silence or just a respect for LG.
Oh my God.
From Entombed AD. I have the album from, I got to see this tour. They were opening up for Amon Amarth, I believe, but what a great loss in the metal community, losing him to cancer. And I know that Prika knew them well, and they were planning on touring the United States last year with Amorphous, and Prika and I were talking about that last week on an episode. So, just our best regards to, all I can say. It's a big loss.
Yeah, it was very sad. I'm super friend of the guitarist, the Guilherme, that he did participation in our new album.
Yes.
And I heard every day many things about his illness, and it was very heavy and very sad, very, very sad. I felt really bad, because he's a very good guy, very nice, always smiling, and everyone loves him. And it's I have thought.
And I know that John just put an episode on Swedish death metal a couple of weeks ago, and and we were touching on all those great bands and the history. I didn't want to bring the show down to an awful level, but we had to make a mention. We, a few weeks ago, we did a show right when Alexei from Children of Bodom passed too, so we mentioned him. So I figured we better mention.
Yeah,
tonight.
I wanted to get LG for the show that I was doing, but I realized he was just too bad by the
Too
time.
sick.
Yeah, I was hoping, because I have known LG for years. I mean, back in the 80s, I remember even writing to him. We were pen pals back then. So
yeah,
it was really sad. When I heard about what was happening, it was just really, really sad. I was in touch with him a little bit, but I didn't want to bother him too much. And
of course,
yes. So
truly, they will never be gone as long as we continue to rock to their work. Not over and over again. It's like Lemmy and Dio. These guys are still here, and all these other guys are still here. We're still rocking.
Yeah, that's true.
Nice way of
he left a legacy for sure.
So we'll go back to Prika. Do you want to add anything else about Judas Priest that you wanted to talk about? What was your #1 album again? So we refresh our memories, because we did talk.
Probably I will say something different because I can't decide the first one.
Let's do a different one, and you're allowed.
But yeah, sometimes I say scene after scene. Sometimes I say rock and roller, and maybe depends of the vision. It will be Painkiller, because for me Painkiller is the best. But my favorite maybe it's scene after scene. And this is good as well. Staying in class, it's one of my favorites. It's in my list.
Cool. And who did we go to last time next? Do you remember, John? Was it Denise?
Denise.
I think it was Denise. Denise is our next. We're over to Denise, and thank you so much for Prika for joining us tonight. And we'll have some more. We'll hang out and talk some more, I'm sure. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Denise, welcome back.
Yes.
What is your
Yeah.
number one? And do you get to see Judas Priest at all on tour and a couple of your concert memories or anything like that, please?
Unfortunately, never. I never saw
Never?
Priest. No, I never saw Priest live. But I watched a lot of stuff to see if I changed my mind about my number one. And I watched Heavy Metal Parking Lot. Do you know
Yes.
this?
Cap Center.
Yes.
That was my backyard growing up, the Cap Center. I love watching that.
Was
Yeah.
it? Was it?
Yeah.
It's a
I
little
saw
bit-
the Harlem Globetrotters there a couple times.
It's a little bit like the thing we do with Heavy Metal Home TV. I really like it, just 20 years before, 40 years before. And a lot of live stuff. And I'm always so impressed how cool Rob Halford is. I never was on a stage, but I would shit myself. So it would be nice if the guys of you who go on stage would tell me a little how you deal with stage fever later. But my number one album would be Painkiller. Yeah, I didn't change my mind.
What was it? What was number one?
Painkiller.
Painkiller. Oh yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, yeah. That was when they came back to really grab the heaviness. Like they kind of went, they mellowed out a little bit with Turbo and Ram It Down, and then they came back with made a statement with Painkiller.
Yeah, Painkiller is a great album.
They went on a row with Megadeth and Testament, so they had a really heavy tour when I saw them too. Yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, thanks, Denise, and anything else you want to add, you can.
Johnny B. Good was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Yes.
Yeah, it was. Robin
We're
likes
sorry about it, leader of the pack. I'm sorry.
that. Sisters.
That's a
I
rough
got a
battle.
question for everybody, because this album I think gets overlooked a little bit.
All right,
Redeemer.
Savatage had Fight for the Rock, so we all have our moments.
Fight for the Rock's a good song. I like that
Yeah,
song.
Fight for the Rock is a good song, and Hide was a great song. I love the
I'm
song
not
Hide. The rest of that record, it's just hard because I wasn't in the band then, but it's difficult because the fans would always trash the band, and so would the band. So it's like the band didn't like it. It was like there was some cool stuff on it, but it was just one of these things. They had a conflict of interest going on between the manager picking a producer.
You can't compare Fight for the Rock to Johnny B. Good. Johnny B. Good loses that battle. I just wanted to ask everybody what their
Our
opinion
leader of the
was.
pack. That's a rough
I'm not
one.
a turn heavy. But what are everyone's thoughts on Redeemer of Souls? I think it's a solid album. I love like the Halls of Valhalla, the March of the Damned, Down in Flames. I just think it's a really heavy album that people kind of overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
I listened to it a bunch of times. I like it, but it's the songs. Some of them are kind of, I don't know. They kind of sound the same to me.
I think it's an okay album. It's not a great album.
It's a little
I
on
would
the
agree
boring.
with John on that.
It's a little boring. It gets a little boring after a while, but there are some good tracks on it for sure.
So
Right.
if we're gonna liven things up, pick one.
Angel Retribution, definitely.
Angel Retribution.
Yeah.
I love Demonizer. That's a great song.
But nobody
That's great.
mentioned Nostradamus.
Another
I
boring.
like
Tour. That was a great tour.
No, not everyone's given their number one album yet, Chris.
Oh, really?
I don't think it's gonna be anybody's.
Hey, I got a good Nostradamus tour. Not Nostradamus. Bought that album, and it came. I bought like the special kind of like book version of it before it
It's
came.
your turn. It's your turn anyhow, Levy. So rock with it.
Boom. There was a code on that album to redeem for a free set of lawn tickets for like pretty much any show that had a lawn on that tour. Now I'm on the lawn. I'm frightened back there. It's dark. The ground's.
PNC.
You ever been to the lawn at PNC? It's like a subhuman wasteland back there. I almost got lost back there during a Maiden show, but
Where you gotta go to smoke your joint,
yeah, that's true. That's true. This way, it just worked as many times as I want it to work. So I did hundreds of lawn tickets for various shows and was just eBaying the entire tour. It was a real treat. So that's my Nostradamus tour story. Album would be Stained Class. I think all you guys, I don't really know. There's so many great albums, but it's just, it's the best of the 70s for me.
It is.
Stained Class, Invader is fucking awesome. Saints in Hell, that's a song I didn't even really like.
Savage.
And then
Savage is great
last
too.
tour,
Yeah.
and Halford just destroyed it.
Heroes End.
Yeah.
I was so excited when
Savage.
I was so excited when we saw that Firepower, like the set list for that, and we're all popping. It's like, holy shit, they're doing Saints in Hell.
And it was good. It was one of the best songs.
I was with you with that show too, right? I had seats a few rows back, and I remember you like, Keeler, come up to like row 5, and we got up there and we were all singing Saints in Hell together. I remember that night. Yeah.
Yeah, I roped Keeler in. It was awesome. Realms of Death, of course. You know, it's nice to know that the drummer got an awesome song on that album that kills. You can see how excited I am. It's a great album from start to finish, every single song. The cover is even cool. A lot of Priest covers are kind of weird, but great album.
It's a weird cover, yeah.
I like the cover. So that's my number one. I do have a few quick tour stories. There was After Midnight, Living After Midnight in Belgium. That was something I never saw, and it just blew my mind. I couldn't believe it was 1 a.m. after midnight, and they were actually doing it. In their dope, it wasn't like some club show in like the 80s. You know, they were playing this festival. Another time that was pretty awesome was the first time I saw him. Everybody has a first time story. I think that was the year after they did that that Ozfest tour that you saw after the reunion. I think it was 2005 or 2006. Jones Beach. The place was absolutely packed. I mean, really packed. Like
yeah.
And I just remember the first song I think was Electric Eye. We were late. We jumped in a cab or something. We got into the place right when that song started, so that was cool. And then the second song was Riding in the Wind. And I just remember Halford in the second song just hits one of those, on the wind! And it was just throughout this arena.
What was that again?
With the sea air coming in. Round the wind!
I lost sound. What was that? No.
For the second round tonight, we're going to do Judas Priest karaoke, just so you guys get your mics out. Get it ready.
I know you guys have been to Jones Beach, so you know that sea air, right? The wind blowing the sun.
Oh, yeah.
And that was amazing. And then one other quick pre-story, concert story, another Jones Beach song tour. I don't know which one. I've probably seen him at Jones Beach like 7 or 8 times over the last.
I hate Jones Beach because you can't have a beer at your seat.
Just, you know, I always smuggle in my booze. Don't worry about that. But they were doing Painkiller, I think. It was Painkiller towards the end of the show.
Okay.
This big fat guy, he must have been 6'5". He must have been 280 or something. He had a Maiden on that he probably got when Robin got her tour jacket, because that was a very form-fitting Maiden shirt. And he just jumps on stage. Now, I know you've seen people jump on stage before. You know what happens. Some of you have probably been on stage when this happened. One of the security guys comes out. They wrestle this guy to the ground. 2 of them, they drag him out. Who knows what to do backstage? But this is the only time I've ever seen that. This guy, he's rocking out to just Painkiller. A guy comes out and jumps on him. Basically no effect. This guy's like clinging onto his shoulder. And he's still going full throttle. The crowd starts going nuts. Like you can hear it over Painkiller. A second guy comes in. By the end of this, there's 3 guys. He's still doing Painkiller, and they're just very slowly are dragging him off stage. Like he's still there. And to me, it was like, you know, it showed like, I don't think that guy planned on doing it. It's just the power of this band when they're playing live and they're hitting and the crowd is screaming. And, you know, I know it's not really a Priest memory directly, but I really remember that. You don't remember every idiot who runs on stage, but this guy I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Like the second time Priest played the Garden when they ripped up 5,000 seats.
Oh, is that not the show you were at?
I was at that one of them. I was at Priest first. That wasn't their first show at the Garden. This was the
They got banned from playing the Garden still, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that was Defenders of the Faith when they did that.
But
I didn't know they played there more than once.
Their first Garden one was Screaming for Vengeance, and then that Defenders of the Faith one, I think it was 5,000 seats got the cushions ripped out of and thrown.
Do you have one at home?
I don't have one. No, I think I took a train to the city that night. So I didn't take one with me.
All over. I mean, We were
That would be
talking.
great to
And
have
I
a
was going
signed
backstage
feature.
after the show, so I didn't want to have one with me going into the
We were talking.
area. Look what I got. So no.
You could have got it signed.
Was
80s.
Motorhead playing with Priest at Jones Beach one of those times?
Yeah, Motorhead, Testament, and Heaven and Hell. It was
Okay, yeah,
fucking
right.
amazing.
Yeah, so I was at that show because I think
That was a good one.
I hung out backstage drinking with Motorhead and missed most of the Priest-show, but I remember going up on the light truss on the side of the stage with one of the crew guys I knew watching Priest, and he was letting me look at Rob Halford's teleprompters that were all over the stage for the. So I'm up in a light truss somewhere behind the stage up on top, and they're like, I better get out of here before I fall off. But a lot of that show I didn't watch because I was backstage drinking with Motorhead, but.
No, I don't blame those guys. If I were up there and I had 100 songs I'd written, I would like to have just in case I got lost, you know?
Yeah.
Mick Jagger has a teleprompter. I mean, whatever.
No, I know that a lot of people do. So we played with Steven Tyler at TSO, and he had one for Walk This Way. So
You gotta have a way to remember which town you're in, right?
I couldn't, you know what? I can't even remember my own lyrics. So I ever since I started singing, when I go to do my own shows, I was James Brown's-ing my way through half my songs. So I didn't have the teleprompter. I was just like, yeah. So, I feel good.
Yeah, those 80s arena shows in like New Jersey and the Meadowlands, they were always like very violent. It got crazy, like the Priest with the seats, and then the Ozzy. We had Phil Sousa on a couple weeks ago from Ozzy Osbourne's with the Ultimate Sin tour, and they did the same thing at the Meadowlands. They were cutting the seats out. I remember Maiden played the Meadowlands. There was a riot outside. I remember my wife and I and a friend that rode down were kind of just hanging by the car, and then we had to get in the car because there was like bottles flying all through the parking lot.
That was
Keeler, you know that bridge from the Izod parking lot or the Brandon Byrne parking lot over to the Meadowlands?
Yeah.
I heard the reason they put a cover on that is because at metal shows, people were like raining bottles down on like
on the fucking highway. Yeah, crazy. And then everybody would bang the sides of it when they were walking across. Yeah.
That was the whole Black Metal Matters movement, wasn't it?
There wasn't no black metal around.
Black Metal Matters. I think that was that one.
Metal Matters. Yeah. Cool. So, Levy, do you have anything more to add, or should we move on?
That's it. Are we not doing our top 3 Priest songs? The email said we were doing songs too.
You know, we kind of just switched it to albums, but if you got a couple songs, we can do it. I went through the trouble writing notes. We're only an hour into this one. Usually we're 2 hours.
This is moving along nicely. All right, I wrote notes, so I'm going to go ahead and
you can come back, and since you're my center square, you will close the show tonight, Levy.
All right, I'll shut up then.
What's your song? Mr. Will Carroll.
I can take a hint, Steve.
So you're waiting for Johnny Be Good till then? I mean, come on.
The whole
Johnny Be Good, parental guidance.
You say yes?
Will.
Wake up, Will.
Yeah.
My dog is playing with a plastic soda bottle if you hear this noise.
You can mute yours if you want.
A quick Nostradamus story. I saw that tour. And a friend and me were drinking all day in the parking lot, and we go inside, we're watching Priest, and I can handle my alcohol a lot better than he can. So he was like halfway through Priest's show, he's sitting in the chair with his head in his hands, and he goes, "Can you please make him stop saying Nostradamus?" He says it like 1,000 times on that album. Nostradamus. It does get a little old. But anyways,
seen it coming.
My favorite Priest album is Sin After Sin. Just from a drumming perspective, that's the first album with actual metal drumming. The first 2 albums are more rock and roll drumming. And Simon Phillips on drums. He's only 16 years old, I believe. The double bass is like unheard of at the time. No one was playing double bass like that. And that was the birth of thrash metal in my eyes. And just the overall production is a step up. It's on a major label. And it sounds like it. That was the first full realization of metal for Judas Priest. And I love the album cover. It's my favorite Priest album cover as well. it matches the lyrics to Sinner perfectly. If you read the lyrics to Sinner, it's like a description of that album cover, more or less. So,
You sure it's not Raw Deal?
I love Raw Deal, man.
Will?
And those lyrics, you know, like I knew what they were about back then when I heard the album maybe in '84 is when I first heard it. But you know, I was only like 11 years old, but I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I just can't believe it was a surprise to some people when he finally came out of the closet. I mean, he's pretty blatant on that song, talking about, you know.
Yeah.
I can't understand a word in that song except for Fire Island. And when I heard that, I was like, huh?
Yeah.
So what's weird is you remember when he did like it was a big thing that he was going to be on MTV and make this big announcement. And I remember it, and then he said it, and I was like, well, no shit.
It was
It was like, that's your big announcement?
What else is new?
You know, I know a lot of metal fans probably had a real moment of conscience there. And I'd like to think that most of them just embraced the power of the metal and maybe grew when that happened.
Yep.
I mean, the whole gimmick was, he was like an S&M setup with like the Blue Oyster or whatever.
One of Rob Halper's belts, taking out, he had an old wardrobe case on. They were throwing things out at the end of that I was on. So KK was like, "Do you want anything?" So I took this belt, and I was trying to find. Yeah, but here's somebody found out I had it, and they wanted to spend a lot of money for it to put in a metal museum, and I couldn't find any photos with Halford wearing this belt, so I couldn't verify that it was Halford's belt, other than the fact that KK gave it to me. So I still have it. But
I know, hey, Chris, have you ever run that under a black light?
Sorry, Will.
Bring it over to Rock Fantasy.
Caffery has Rob Halford's belt, and Levy has Ronnie James Dio's couch.
Oh my, it's true, actually. It's right here.
Yeah, show everyone the Ronnie James Dio's sofa. Can you see it?
This is harder than you think. There it is.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's
how
in the Dio auction a couple years ago. It was my girlfriend was like, that was kind of nice. And it was pretty cheap. And I was just like, and before I knew it, I owned Dio's couch. And it's,
That's awesome.
you know, I said where he said.
But in closing, I just want to do a couple of honorable mentions. This bootleg is freaking awesome. It's on the Stream Prevention Tour. It's the audio from the VHS tape that came out in '82 called Priest Live.
Yeah.
You remember that VHS tape?
I had that. I mean, I didn't have it, but I rented that. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the
Memphis.
audio of that. So it's really cool to have it on vinyl.
Nice.
This show is incredible too. I think this is the show that Chris was at. This is at the Palladium in New York in 1980 on the British Steel Tour.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was the first time I saw him in the theater when I was 12, when I had the backstage.
Yeah, this album's awesome. I mean, the sound quality's not that great, but the packaging and the pictures are fucking killer. But this is my favorite Priest bootleg. I have quite a few. Well, this is at the Palladium in '79 on the Hellbent for Leather tour, and it's one of the first shows with Dave Holland on drums. A lot of people don't know that he finished out the Hellbent for Leather tour. Les Binks was fired mid-tour. So, or towards the end of the tour. So this is Dave Holland on drums. It's kind of interesting to hear him play all the 70s Priest songs his way, you know, his own interpretation. He's a very different drummer than Les Binks. I prefer Les Binks, but I also have respect for Dave Holland. He was a powerhouse drummer, and he was exactly.
He played Medusa. Come on, he played Medusa. That's one of the heaviest songs ever. The Trapeze.
Rapid Fire.
Totally.
The Trapeze song Medusa is one of the heaviest metal songs ever. And that's Dave Holland. That's a great tune.
Yeah.
Is that a trapeze song?
Bootleg. It's fucking awesome.
Medusa, the Trapeze song Medusa with Glenn Hughes singing is got Dave Holland on drums. And it's a
Cool.
Yeah, I have that album.
Yeah.
Speaking of Glenn Hughes, John, were you able to talk to Doug from the Dead Daisies today?
Yeah, I had a great interview with Doug.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, talk
I
about
actually got to know. Hey, Steve, you don't know this story. I actually got to know Overkill because of Judas Priest. Because when I was going to see them, I wanted to go see them on the Point of Entry tour, the original Overkill guitar player, his name was Riff Thunder. His name is Rob Pizarnik. He's actually an entertainment lawyer now. It was before the Bobby came in. He was playing guitar and he worked at a record store in Nanuet, and me and my brother were in there. We were really young, and I remember telling him that I had Judas Priest backstage passes that I could get him. So him and his girlfriend, they drove us to Philly and they drove us to Atlantic City to see Priest, and I got him backstage, and that's when he was in Overkill. So that's how I got to actually meet Overkill for the first time, and I was 13, and that's when they were doing a lot of Priest covers at that time. So that was pretty funny.
That's an awesome story.
Another useless story.
Hey, Will, what are your favorite Dave Holland moments?
My favorite Dave Holland moments? Is this a sick joke? No, I'm just kidding.
No. We don't go for the low hanging fruit.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. When Ram It Down came out, and I'm listening to Hard as Iron, and the double bass of that song, I was like, there is no fucking way that's Dave Holland, man. There's no way. I mean, his double bass on Rapid Fire is great. It's great, but he's not really much of a double bass drummer. And he didn't do any double bass after that point. I think he does a little bit on Jawbreaker, slow double bass. But when I heard Hard as Iron and the diggy, I knew it was a drum machine, man. Like, he was 45 on that tour. There's no way a 45-year-old guy is all of a sudden going to be a kick-ass double bass drummer. I mean, I don't know. But I like Dave Holland, but I just knew that wasn't him on that album for sure.
The rumor is that was a drum machine.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like it. I like that album, but it sounds to me a bit like a demo that they never got around to really.
I agree, man. The songs seem a little incomplete, and just the overall vibe of it is totally demo-ish. Blood Red Skies is a great tune, though.
Yeah.
And I like the cover too. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah. Cool.
Trying to get a power adapter going, or I'm going to lose you guys.
So, well, I guess we're going to move over to Mazen, if you're done.
So, I mean, I'm going to just tell some more stories, I guess, first, because, like, I'm so into this.
Go ahead.
So, to, redeem Ripper, I did see Rob Halford on his own with Fight. And, again, It was, like, at a weird venue, and, like, it wasn't even a venue. It was like a weird tent that they just that they put up for weddings. It was like a weird it was so bizarre. And I want to say, oh God, Monster Voodoo Machine was opening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
It was like a weird show. And again, there wasn't many people there, but I think because it looked like they were holding a wedding. I don't know. It was bizarre.
Where was this at, Robin?
It was like Clearwater. I didn't even live here yet. It was over by the other airport, the Clearwater airport, not the Tampa airport, like by the side of the runway. It was so weird.
Yeah, it sounds weird.
It was really bizarre. But and there wasn't that many people there. So I'm just gonna say that this way it makes sense on that.
So at that same time period when Rob was doing his thing and they were doing their thing, they were both drawing and playing.
They were both drawing, not that many people when I saw them.
Yeah.
But and then in like the mid 80s, like I had a car, like my parents' car. We had like a Chevy Malibu, and it was green and jacked up, and like everybody in the neighborhood called it the Green Manalishi. So that was kind of, And then I have like this weird story, and I don't know if I should tell it on here, but it was at the Revolver Golden God Awards in LA.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like in the care packages backstage, they gave like these bags, at like the shows. And Rob Halford was there because I think he won like the Golden God Award that year.
Okay.
And in the bags, though, they gave like
Really?
vibrators.
I knew it had to be going in that direction.
It was really bizarre, but they had like, they had all kinds of stuff like, soap and, smell it like a nice candle. But yeah, there was a vibrator. And I remember I started drinking and I was in the hallway and I did something and I turned around with it and I hit Rob Halford with it. and it was kind of embarrassing. Like,
Rob
but,
Hall with a vibrator.
but it was kind of embarrassing. So yeah, I
That
hit
probably
my-
wasn't even the first time that night.
But yeah, it was like kind of embarrassing. I hit him with it, and then what's weird is like it disappeared after that, so I don't know where it went.
You probably don't want it back at this point.
So, and then I have to bring up before I name my number one, it still bothers me to this day, like in the Breaking the Law video with the cardboard cutout of the guitar.
The backwards guitar.
The
Yeah.
backwards guitar, like nobody decided like that was wrong or like said anything or.
What about the video for what's the one where they're all working out together?
Rocket.
Rocket.
I love that video. Like all their, like I mean, Hot Rockin's one of my favorites.
They were trying to get something like let's get physical action.
They're all working out and they're like taking showers. It's
Working
weird.
out in leather pants.
And then they're taking showers. It's really
You really have to after you work out in leather pants.
yeah. Like I mean
And they weren't German.
yeah, it's just you know, like this their videos, a lot of them were like great. Like I had like an old Judas Priest VHS that had like all their different videos on there.
Fuel for life.
Huh?
It was called Fuel for Life.
Yes,
Right?
yes. I still have it. It's in my storage unit. But yeah, the videos on there were so good. Like stuff that you didn't get to see all the time.
Like Don't Go. Don't Go is
Don't
on
Go
there.
was on there. Yep.
Mhm.
Alice
When
in
he's
Wonderland.
whispering in their ears and like there's bunny rabbits. I don't know. It's there's so many like if nobody's seen these videos, please go look them up because they're so good. Like
You got your money's worth out of that one.
yeah, like when he's like, I'll do anything for you. Like in it, like it's, and then there's like bunny rabbits. I don't know. It's like amazing. But anyway, so
Rush videos in the 80s, you know.
yeah, like so besides all that and everything, like I mean, I love all the early Priest, Painkiller, but it was like a tough decision to pick my number one. It was like between Defenders of the Faith, and Screaming for Vengeance. So I'm stuck on those two still.
Okay.
So, but I
Yeah,
mean,
pick
I
one,
love
Robin.
Devil's Child. Devil's Child is probably one of my favorite songs. I love that song. I don't know why. So, but I think that's gonna be my number one. And if anybody found that vibrator from Robert Golden Gods, please let me know because that'd be interesting because it's Am I-
She doesn't want it. She just wants to know.
not that I want it. I just want to know like who stole it.
Did it actually have like
Tito's cow.
did it actually have Rob Halford's logo on it?
No, it was like it was this weird. I want to say it was like a penguin or something. I don't remember. It was so bizarre.
Robin, what's your favorite Judas Priest song about blowjobs?
Ram it down. I don't know.
I'm an Eat Me Alive guy.
What's yours?
I'm an Eat Me Alive guy. Jawbreaker is pretty good.
Jawbreaker. I mean, like Ram It Down. Like
That's a good song.
We're getting X-rated here. We're getting in the X-rated version. We're gonna have to make this videos not for kids when we list it tomorrow.
I wonder why they picked Johnny B. Good. So I don't know.
Oof.
parental guidance was, hey.
Parental guidance is pretty bad.
It's a guilty
Like back
pleasure. What can I
then,
say?
That was
the
rough,
video
yeah.
also, it was like up there. Oh, and
You
I
know,
mean, you
we
cannot
don't
forget
need-
like Rob Halford coming out on like the motorcycle. It was sick. Come
Oh.
on. All right.
No,
Let me-
we
let me
didn't.
sign
We
on that
found out it was
motorcycle.
like nobody even paid attention to it. We didn't care. It was Rob Halford.
I was like the
There wasn't even one
motorcycle.
second- There wasn't 1 second when that information came out that it changed anything anybody I
Oh,
knew.
I was talking about the motorcycle. You're back on the.
Oh,
Yeah, we're
no,
talking
but
about
I'm
the
just
motorcycle.
I was just talking about that whole. Everybody's talking about the Halford thing, but no, we didn't. Even back then, before everything became like trendy and everybody was so open to that when nobody even cared. Halford
I
was,
didn't
like,
I
even.
didn't care.
Yeah,
like,
he was
I
so
didn't give a crap.
badass that it was like whatever. It's like that guy. He was
Yeah.
the most badass heavy metal singer ever at that time.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
he's a metal god.
yeah,
So,
exactly. So,
I mean,
All right, that's all I got. Metal god and done.
cool.
Okay.
I want something shocking, like I want Blackie Lawless to come out of the closet. No, I'm just kidding.
He's renouncing his religion and he's coming out of the closet.
I know, I'm
Sing
like,
fuck like a beast again. Thank God our national nightmare is over.
I can't believe that they will not play their hit song. Yes.
What is up with that? Change it to like a Jesus song or something. Just sing fuck
Jesus
like
like a beast.
Oh my.
All right. So where are we heading next? I think we're back to Mr. McEntee. Then I go, and then we're getting down to the bottom here. It's a fun episode. I hate to leave it.
Well, I mean, my Judas Priest story. I mean, I was a super big fan of Judas Priest around the Screaming for Vengeance time. I remember getting that live. I didn't actually buy it. Don't tell anybody, but I rented it from the video store and I taped it. I brought my VCR over to my aunt's house and taped it.
Your video store rented LPs?
Oh no, it wasn't an LP. It was the
VHS tape.
The VHS tape of the live show in Memphis. It was
the one that he's got on the one that Will has on.
Yeah, on vinyl. Yeah. I actually even recorded that to like cassette tape and stuff from the VCR because I had like little outs. I was this, I love that so much. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. The wall of stacks and just it was just totally metal. So I mean that time period for me was really when I just got into Priest, and it was just they were really high as a band. I mean, I remember going to the mall and you see all the iron-on patches of like Judas. I mean, they would have all like the heavy metal and rock patches in the store where you could just like you just pick the patch you want and put on whatever shirt it was or whatever.
Oh, the old iron-on decal.
Yeah, like the iron-on decal kind.
Like the Jersey Shore Boardwalk.
Yeah. I used to go to where was that place in what was it? Wildwood Crest. They used to have some good record stores over there.
Oh, Wildwood Boardwalk. Yeah.
I
grew up going there, man.
Yeah. I used to go there all the time in the summertime. You just take the train down there.
I found a whole box of Kiss Love Gun and Alice Cooper iron-on transfers. I still have them up in the store. I don't know if they're dry rotted, if they still work or anything else, but I found a whole bunch of those.
You can still buy the
live stream it.
I want one.
You could still buy the machine.
Yeah. Actually, I have one of those. I have one of those machines. If you need one.
John, maybe I'll send you some. You can make some up for us.
I'm going to go off track real quick on this. It's crazy because maybe that's where I got the jacket from. My first job ever was at a place that it was called Rock and Roll. Oh my God, now I can't remember. But I was like 13. It was my first job and it was printing those iron-on metal shirts and I sold posters. That's probably where I got my jacket.
I bet that smell would bring back memories, right?
Was it?
That's my first job. So but the printing all day.
I mean, that's still a thing at the Jersey Shore. Like we were talking about Wildwood. I mean, they're not making rock ones anymore. There's probably whatever's current in the States and whatever.
Do they still sell those mirrors?
Yeah, I used to.
Like still have the mirrors
there now.
Yeah,
they still have those.
They had one at Wildwood. On the boardwalk. They used to have one with like records there, and then you'd be able to play for the records and stuff like that. So I used to do that too. Yeah, it was pretty cool back then. I don't know. I guess it's pretty cheesy now, but it was fun back then.
Oh, it's still awesome.
Yeah, but
right here for Black Sabbath.
Yeah, something. Yeah, it would have. Yeah.
These are not cheesy. I mean, these are fucking awesome. They still have stuff like this, but it's nothing like this now. I mean.
Yeah.
That's vintage, Steve?
In my store, like in the head shop spot where I have the glass water pipes and stuff, I got tons of the old Carnival mirrors in the shop. Yep.
But sorry, we're back off topic again.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Anyway, so I was like super big Judas Priest fan around that time. And I remember even listening to was it Metal Shop around that time, and they would always play Judas Priest. And they had one show on there. It was right when Defenders of the Fate was just about to come out, and it played like one song off each album, and then like told a little story about it and stuff. So I was just all about that whole Priest thing. What shirt is that? That's awesome.
Point of entry.
Oh,
wow. Blitz 19.
Nice.
I had that shirt.
Here's a Screaming.
I remember that one. Yeah, that was an awesome one.
Is that from inside or are those from the parking lot?
These two are inside. They got the dates on them. These are real.
Probably worth about $500 a piece.
I wanted to, since I knew them, you couldn't. If you wore the stuff from the outside, they'd crucify you. So I had to.
Of course.
Yeah, so no, those were inside ones, but
Okay, well, what was it? But yeah, bottom line, I was just a huge Priest fan. So by the time Defenders of the Faith came out, I remember going to I think it was Sam Goody's record store in the Paramus Park Mall, and they had like a big display with like, that picture from back of the album with Rob Halford, KK Downing, Glenn Tipton, kind of like, in their metal pose, and I just remember like seeing that, like, oh wow, this is really going to be awesome. I can't wait for it. It was like kind of like a pre thing or whatever. And I remember seeing that video on MTV for Free Will Burning, and it just blew my mind with the fast lyrics and the fast picking and just those laser lights in the video and, cheesy video games. I mean, that was my sweet spot at that time. I was like, these guys,
it was like a pole position game, wasn't it? Like
and it was like it was just I was all about it, So I remember picking up that album, and I just, from back to front, it was just like that album to me is just amazing, and it just has those memories of a great time in my life of just learning about metal and everything. And I remember, I seen them at that show at Madison Square Garden with a Great White opened up, but the one where the seats got pulled and stuff. Unfortunately, my first band I seen live was Great White, not by choice.
But you live.
Yeah, but it was.
That was your first band?
Yeah, well, it was just because they opened up for Judas Priest on that.
Okay. That doesn't count. That's the first band you ever went to the bathroom to.
But I mean, I was
lucky enough to have Priest, and you got Great White. So,
but I remember actually when I got tickets to that show. That was my first concert I ever went to or was going to, and I had to beg my mom to go because at Madison Square Garden, I was from New Jersey, and she wasn't too excited about having me go, but I basically convinced her to let me go with her. So she took me to the show. But a couple of days before that show, I got the chicken pox. So I was just like, I was horrified, but I told my mom, I was like, I don't care. I'm going to the show,
We're going to pandemic in the garden.
Yeah. So I ended up, going to the show with
spreading chicken pox to everybody all over. Heavy metal fans all over New York and New Jersey. We're itching a week and a half later.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a real dream come true for me. I mean, even before that, I remember I bought every single Judas Priest album and listened to all those albums on repeat for like, probably a month before that. I wanted to know every single song that they're going to play. Like, I didn't want to, like, I was just like so excited where I was like, I'm not going to be a poser. I'm not going to go to the show and not know one song, everything I have to know. So I was totally.
What did your mom have to say about the chairs being ripped up?
Well, yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah, it was basically like we were kind of on side or whatever and watching them play, and my mom wasn't so excited. There were people behind me that were smoking weed and stuff, and she was just like, I don't know about this, and then basically towards the end of the set, I mean, they start, people start tearing up the seats, and it was just insane. And I was like, oh, my mom's never going to let me go to a show again, after seeing them tear up the seats throughout the whole freaking venue, and it was really a awesome thing. She was just like, she wasn't so excited about it, but she did let me go to other shows, but she actually went with me to Next Couple just to kind of see. I think I went to see like Dio after that, and I think she took me to see Kiss live, a couple other bands, and after a while she's like, okay, it's not so bad. It was like a freak situation. But I mean, I just remember, I just couldn't believe, for me to see Judas Priest live and to see these people that I idolized on stage in front of me actually playing the songs. They had the big Metallion on stage at the time. They started off with Love Bites on that, where they had the dong dong, and then like each time it came in, like fire would shoot up and another one of the members would show up, like it would just and it just blew my mind. It was such an experience, it just from that minute on, I just knew my life was going to be metal and screw everything else. Like this was just too damn cool, you know? So, you know, Priest has a special place in my heart, you know, from a, you know, pretty young age. I mean, I must have been 13 or 14. I can't remember exactly, but it basically changed my life. I mean, and it was just a dream come true. So I have to pick Defenders of the Faith because it's like I felt at that show that I was going to be a defender of the faith. You know, it was just like after that, I felt that power of metal and just like it was in my blood. You know, I even have the old thing. I couldn't find my shirt, but I have the old the book from there. You know, just
you bought that at the show.
Oh yeah, of course. I had to.
I bought that for you
somewhere.
Oh wow, it's in good shape.
Yeah, it's pretty good
It's
shape.
a lot better than one I have.
Yeah, it's really awesome, you know.
Hey, before we move on, let's have a shout out for John's mom for making this. She didn't have to do that, you know. She didn't have to take you to the show.
Yeah.
God knows without that, there might not be Incantation right now.
I have to be honest. My mom was actually really, really cool about that kind of stuff. I mean, she wasn't a cool mom as far as like, you know, oh, you can party or whatever, but she knew that I love music so much. And she just knew that I connected somehow with this. She didn't understand it, you know, but she, you know, she went to the show and she was like, okay, I could see where it's entertaining, you know. I mean, especially seeing a band like Judas Priest that time with the, you know, the big medallion on stage and all the, you know, crowd participation and just,
it's like Broadway.
Yeah, she would look at it like that because I remember she did the same thing. Like, you know, we went to see Dio play and she loved it. She's like, "Oh, this is really cool." You know, it has these, you know, monsters coming out and stuff, and just, you know, all these things. And I remember actually, I'm getting off topic, but she really liked Kiss. I seen Kiss on Animalized tour. She took me to see that, and she loved the way Paul Stanley danced on stage. She just kept saying, "He's like that Paul Stanley. You know, he's a good entertainer. That guy, you know."
It's so funny. My mom said that about Rob Halford after that last thing. She's like, "Oh, he was really good a voice." Like, I can't even imitate her, but yeah, it was like the same.
Yeah.
Same.
So
I figured if you became a touring musician, that was a good way to get you out of the house at a younger age. So. No, this is a perfect job. Go.
But yeah, so Defenders of the Faith just has a special place in my heart. I mean, every time I listen to that album, I think the sound on it is probably the most metal of any album. I mean, Screaming for Vengeance is great too, but something about Defenders of the Faith just makes me think heavy metal, and that's like the perfect example of heavy metal in my opinion, that album. So
you know, it blows my mind that I know a lot of people who say Defenders of the Faith is the first album where you start hearing turbo creeping into the sound, and I don't hear that at all, man.
I don't know. No, I mean, Freewheel Burning, that song, it blew my mind. I mean, that was basically where like Slayer got the Hell Awaits idea from, you know. I mean, that stuff is like, you know, was so forward thinking, like you were saying, and genius at that time. And that album's great. I think it's a great album. Yeah. I mean, it does have some catchy songs on it, but what's wrong with that? And you know, the what's it? Heavy Duty on that album is such a heavy song. I mean, I mean, I just remember watching that live, and it was just like, you know, hearing that live, you just felt like, hell yeah, fucking metal, you know, like it was just a great experience. That album just rules. You know?
It has a great title because it rallies the troops and it makes you fucking defend the fucking faith.
Yeah, I didn't
even know I wanted to defend the faith until I got the album.
It was probably about 10 songs in at that concert. One seat cushion went, and you're like,
yeah.
What's that? Nothing. And like maybe 3-4 songs later,
you see
another 1 or 2 went, and then all of a sudden, right before another thing coming, it was
it was out of control.
Thousands of them flying at the stage. It was crazy.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't either. The whole entire security pit in front of the stage was filled with seat cushions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just like ankle deep in seat cushions.
Similar to the Ozzy. I mean, once the kids knew we did that at that show, then when Ozzy was at the Meadowlands or something, and then People were doing it there.
Yeah,
like,
I remember. I seen it on the.
And you
it
know
was
what?
on-
Those seat cushions came out of something that wasn't too loose, so obviously there was no metal detectors at that time.
Oh,
We
yeah.
were walking
Yeah,
into those
knives
concerts
and
with something
everything.
sharp enough
Blades,
to cut
yeah.
those seats open.
Yeah, and
I
I,
mean, they were ripping them out.
Yeah, but I saw next to me, I was able to see people slicing them open.
Oh yeah, they were slicing them up. I mean, they were like embroidered seats. You had to cut the cushion out. Yeah.
Raise your hand if you've witnessed a metal riot.
Isn't that kind of one?
Only two.
I mean, I was at that Iron Maiden show where it was the Metal Riot.
Oh yeah, I was there for that.
Which one was that?
Somewhere in Time, was it? I think it was.
At the Meadowlands Arena, where the bottles were like flying through the air at night. I mean,
Are they also banned from the Meadowlands? I don't
No, they
think.
stopped selling
No.
beer at these at the Meadowlands Arena and for shows like that for a long time after those shows.
So you couldn't drink anything except
No.
all the bourbon you
No.
brought.
They stopped serving alcohol after those shows. Yep, yep.
Wow.
Well, anyhow, I guess we're back to me if John's finished.
Yep, that's it.
My number one album is Stained Class. Starting off with we talked about already, Exciter, White Heat, Red Hot. It's like a perfect album. Stained Class, Invader. I love Saints in Hell, Savage. You know, it's just a solid album. But I mean, if I was gonna cheat, the album I've listened to the most by Judas Priest, and I said we couldn't use live albums, would be Unleash the Knees. I mean, I've listened to that more than anything else, but we weren't, because I thought everybody might pick that if we said you could pick that album, so I kind of didn't. So, and talking about like, you know, going full circle, I got to see Iron Maiden open up on my first time seeing Judas Priest. Then later on the Brave New World tour with Iron Maiden, I got to see Rob Halford open up. It was Halford, it was Queensryche, Halford, and Maiden, and that was in Wilkes-Barre, PA, at the Montage Mountain. And
Is that like a club?
Huh?
Is that a club or a casino?
No, Montage Mountain is the Toyota amphitheater now.
Oh, it's big.
Fest and stuff there. But I mean, I saw that's where I did the meet and greet with Slayer a few years ago. It's a great little venue. It's about, if I get in my car, it takes me about an hour down the interstate to get there, and the crowds are lighter there because it's a smaller hub. And I got a lot of good times at that venue. But a friend of mine that was working with me at the time, we went to see the show, and we were just like hanging out. Like you could see like the backstage area. We were just standing there having a beer or something. And there's Rob Halford, and he looks over, and he comes walking over to us. Like you're looking for someone else. Do you think you know us or something? I'm thinking in my head, but he was just stopped out, and we were just talking to him. I don't think we grabbed a photo. And I did meet Rob Halford once at the Operation Rock and Roll tour at the Meadowlands, and that was through the guys at Epic Records who I worked, who I got the passes from and everything then. So that's pretty much my Judas Priest stories tonight. And I'd like to thank everybody for coming on tonight. And I mean, Chris didn't do his last pick yet, or did he?
Well, I kind of told you that Unleash the Knees just because of the
Okay, yeah, same thing.
And plus, when I got to tour as Ripper's band, opening for Heaven and Hell on that one tour, and we did a one-off at we did a couple one-offs, but we did Fields of Rock, the Castle Donington thing.
Yeah.
We played there, and so I got to play the English Holy Grounds. Wacken's kind of the German one, but I got to play Ripper and Green Metalishi at Castle Donington's.
That's awesome.
So that was pretty cool. So that Unleash the Knees, I just had a lot of memories and a lot of influence as far as a guitar player and stuff. And
of course, I mean, it's a fucking great album,
Yeah.
Less bass also, which is nice on all the old songs.
Did anyone else pick songs that they want to give, or I mean, Levy said you had a couple songs, or did everybody just do the albums? I don't want to cut anybody off if they did their homework.
I love Beyond the Realms of Death is one of my favorite songs.
Okay.
I'll give it to you real quick, Steve. My 3 favorite Priest songs: Painkiller. It's just Priest at their heaviest. It's probably one of the heaviest songs ever. I mean, it's so heavy, and then it's got these face melting solos. If you need to, and I've done this before, like I was dating a girl once who had no idea about anything heavy metal. And I was like, this is heavy metal. And she got it because it's the speed, it's the vocals, it's the solos, it's the perfect length, it's the perfect tempo, it's the perfect bridge. Everything is awesome about Painkiller. And that's just number 3. Then number 2, you got Metal Gods. It's the perfect slow Priest, like, and again, that song is metal. I remember first time I listened to that, it was on a record someone let me borrow about 17 or 18 years ago, a coworker. My friend Dave, who you know, Dave Mertz, goes with us to all those shows. Dave had all these albums from when he was a kid, and he gave them all to me on vinyl.
Nice.
British, he refused to give them to me, he still has them. But British Steel, when that song came on, I had my headphones on, I was a little stoned.
Yeah.
And that to me is just metal. And it's about giant robots like destroying things, which is pretty metal. I mean, Iron Man, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And it doesn't even have like Rob Halford shrieking or whatever. That whole album really doesn't, but it doesn't matter. It just embodies what they're about and what metal should be at. And then number 1, this is tough, but I'm gonna go with Sinner. Mid-tempo, you got Painkiller, which is like the thrash song, speed metal, whatever. Then you got Metal Gods, which is the slow one, that slow, heavy, Sabbathy one, kind of. And then you got the one I just said. What was that?
Dinner.
Dinner. Perfect. And it's probably their 3rd best album opener behind Painkiller and Rapid Fire.
I like Starbreaker's
Great
song.
songs. And why?
Starbreaker's awesome too. Yeah. I mean, if I'm gonna do songs, I'm looking at Tyrant. I'm looking at Ripper. I'm looking at. It's funny how there's a song called Ripper, and then there's a guy named Ripper that sang for me.
That's no coincidence.
That's why they called him Ripper. It was the whole thing.
One of my favorite ones is The Victim of Changes live. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's why I said Beyond the Realms of Death, because they used to do that live. They used to have the mirror ball. And I always said, I was like a little kid looking at the mirror ball lights, and the crowd was really cool. Triumph did that too. Triumph was a big mirror ball.
Yeah, mirror ball.
Hey, Steve, yes, Tipton and Downing going with the letters in the background at Jones.
I can't do it. But so I'd like to thank everyone for coming on tonight. Denise for staying up till probably 5 in the morning.
I got you. The dog is starting to bark. It's that time.
All right, Chris. Good to see you, brother. And Prika, what do you got going on in Nervosa camp? You got some more videos coming out.
Not for a while.
He keeps barking.
Not for a while.
Good night.
Good night.
Prika, maybe you can tell us, like, I mean, I don't mean to, I know everybody's probably asking you this all the time, but when do you think we're going to get to see some fucking metal again? Live.
Oh, I don't know, you know. Now we have a really hard situation in Brazil, example. We are living the worst season for COVID. So for me, it's very hard, you know, to plan everything. I'm blocked here. I would be in Europe last month, but my flight was canceled and I'm completely blocked here.
You can't get out.
I have a European passport, you know, I'm Italian too, and I can't get out. Even if I'm European, you know, I'm really blocked here. And I have no idea when the situation will be a little bit better and when I can get out.
Yeah.
I'm completely isolated here in my house. I live in the middle
isolated. You got us. You're not isolated. You got Rock Fantasy Files. Well, we really hope to see you out there soon because that's an awesome album. And and we want to see it. So I know you're ready to go, right? Whenever it's clear, you're ready to go, right?
Yes, we are super ready. We can't be more excited, you know, because we are in the maximal level of the excited, you know.
Yeah.
And we really wanted, and I really want to meet these girls again, you know, because we met just twice. So we are a really new band, and I really need to be with the girls, even to have rehearsals, you know. But yeah, let's cross finger and let's hope.
You know, they've been putting out a lot of videos. I don't know if you've checked them out, Levy, but of course they did a whole documentary kind of thing of them making the album. And I know It's been really a good thing. What's going on in Will Carroll's camp? What do you got going on with Death Angel? You guys are rehearsing again? You planning on doing another stream, or just getting ready for possibly going back out on the road when it gets normal? Or
No talks about going on the road. We're not going to make any plans like that until we know it's really going to happen. No, we're just working on new material, and we do have plans for another live stream coming up at some point.
okay.
And I'm doing a live stream with my AC/DC tribute band that I have with Zetro from Exodus. It's called ACDZ, Z for Zetro. And we're doing a live stream April 3rd. It's all Bon Scott era stuff.
Nice.
And so I'm rehearsing for that as well. And I got my other band Scarecrow with Matt Harvey from Exhumed and Gruesome. And we have an EP coming out in a couple of weeks. And so I'm trying to stay busy here. I'm DJing at a local bar, so that's fun.
Will, are you guys gonna do Shot Down in Flames?
Not at this show, but we have done it before for sure. I mean, when you're only doing Bon Scott era, you only have so much to work with, so you're eventually going to cover all the songs. But at this show, since it's a live stream and we're playing for people in Europe and first time people are seeing us, it's a pretty vanilla set. It's just going to be like, the well-known songs.
To say it's going to be fucking awesome.
It should be fun, man.
Well, we'll make sure
Can't go wrong.
We got to get the link on there so we can all get everybody to support that stream for sure.
For sure, man.
And what's going on with Robin? I know Robin went and was working with Dercada over the weekend.
No, it wasn't Dercada now.
Oh, it wasn't? I'm sorry.
I was in Ohio finishing the Castrator record.
Oh, I knew it was one of the projects. I'm so sorry.
So that was about it.
Nice,
So
nice.
almost done, finally. So other than that,
Cool.
nothing.
And
Doing
Mr.
this, hanging out with you and you guys.
And it's been an honor to have you guys all hanging out. I look forward to these all the time, just getting to hang out with the bands and talking. It's like, people complain that sometimes like, the shows are long, but I mean, if you got the 8 of us together and we went out to dinner or we went out in the back and had a campfire and we're just talking about music, this is what this show's kind of all about. And I mean, John's been doing a great job interviewing a bunch of people he knows from the industry, and he's been doing a lot. And it's just an honor to have everybody on. And John, do you have anything that you'd like to plug tonight?
Well, I guess we have a tour that we announced for the fall. So fingers crossed it's going to happen.
I saw that October, November.
Yeah.
Where does it open, John?
What's that one?
Where does it open?
Oh, that's Poland. I think it starts in Poland.
All right. I hope this happens, man. This is what we need.
Yeah. So it's a European tour. I hope it goes through. I mean, everyone's telling me that it's realistic timeline,
With the
I feel like it is for the first time. I feel like it's a realistic timeline, and I think
I mean, we put out, it'll be a year and a couple of months after we put out our last album. So obviously we want to get out on the road and play it if possible. Obviously we want to make sure everyone's going to be safe and stuff too.
Sure.
But I would think by that time, between the vaccines and people just knowing, okay, wear a mask and don't lick the floors everywhere you go. You should
No, licking the floors.
I know.
Who you guys
So I think, I mean, I just think at a certain point you do have to be a little bit, just take responsibility for your own actions too. I mean, if you really feel like you're in jeopardy, don't go to the show. I mean, but you never know, but still, you just try your hardest to be, safe.
Who are you guys touring with?
Abigail Williams and Vales of Nath.
Okay.
Cool. So you're gonna go to Germany, and and Denise can come see you at the show.
Yeah, probably.
Sure.
I know we're not playing too close. I don't think though. I don't remember all the German shows, but I know we have Hanover and Hamburg, and that's a little bit of a ride from. You're closer to Cologne, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But it's all good.
Cool. And Denise, thank you for coming on. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug tonight, or you're just chilling out?
I go to bed. As a next step. But I don't know if anybody ever did this. I want to thank you guys and Sue Helford, who was a girlfriend of one of the band members and brought Rob to one of the rehearsals. So thank you, Sue. You are the reason for this show.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And hails and heavy fucking metal to everyone. And we hope to have next week on Wednesday night, I think it's St. Patrick's Day already. And I'm planning talking about the great Thin Lizzy. So I'm looking for some panels.
Hey Steve, I just want to thank you, World Famous Rock Fantasy. I've seen Will and Robin and John. It's like I feel like I'm Paul Lind all of a sudden.
You are the center square, my friend.
So thanks a lot. It was a lot of fun. I love talking Priest with you guys and watching you guys talk about metal every week. It's awesome. And
we will have you. We'll have you back again, Levy.
Yep.
Rock on.
And thank you for joining us, Prika.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Nervosa.
Yeah.
What? And chaos is going to last for 1 million years. She popped out already. Okay. I guess I'm stopping recording.